Okay, thank you very much for the kind messages I can read in the forum. I appreciate it. I'm just going to take a few more beautiful images, so just allow me once again to give you a view of the bay, and it'll be to your benefit. Okay, I got some very beautiful still images there, and you can see even the quality on the screen is very good. Really excellent coming through, beautiful. So I'm going to take a few more. Does anyone know whether this is Jules or Indy? I'm not quite sure again. But I'll take a few. I really love it when they look directly at you. I haven't managed it. I can only see it here on the screen. But the resolution of the close-ups. Imagine that with my camera, you're going to get very, very good images. Okay, so I'll try. I'm going to try and get a few more. So again, I'm going to put you on. Just excuse me, I cannot do that in parallel, unfortunately. Oh well, you see, that's the image I want. That's the image I want. So I'm going to look for that. Okay. Okay, done. Got it. So if you send me an email to sassephoto@gmail.com, you'll have it tonight. You will, I promise. Oh, the dog walked past. I just read in the forum the dog walked past. Yeah, this is Bella. Bella is really very, very entertaining, aren't you? And you know what? The funny thing is, the eaglets are looking at them. Does anybody know, is this Jules? For our own record, is this Jules or Indy? I've lost track. I find it still very difficult. Can anyone in the forum help me? Just for the records. So is this Jules or Indy that we're looking at now? Bella here, the dog is telling me probably, how could you not know? This is very clear who that is. So probably Bellas thinks this is Indy, and so does Danny in the forum. So it seems to be consensus that this is Indy. Well, that's good. I've slightly overexposed because Indy is so dark, so you can see it, and Indy's looking straight at the dog now, unbelievably so. And when I was, it's really marvelous, when I took an image of Indy looking down directly, it was looking, you know what, he was looking directly at the camera. And you know, their eyes are so good, and they're so observant and so curious. This is the most wonderful time to spend with juveniles, really. They're so curious. They watch everything. So I do have a very sharp image of Indy looking straight into the camera. So send me a request. If you have already sent me a request, don't worry, it'll be in the Dropbox folder. If you've shared the Dropbox folder, you'll have it there. No need to send it again. If you have not done it before, not received an image yet from me, send me an email at sassephoto@gmail.com, and I will share that. Here's the email address again. Oh, look at that yawn. So if this is Indy, then Jules is complaining at the moment. Okay, that's a very good question. I have a question in the forum. Let me just read out the question so we can discuss this. The question is, Christian, I'm wondering if you have any particular techniques for shooting at the nests. I've tried shooting at the local hawk nest, and I find two challenging things. One is the focus, the autofocus, even with spot autofocus, often gets thrown off by the branches in and out of the nest. And with a long nest and relatively shallow depth of field, manual focus is also tough to get precise. Also B, exposure. Again, even with spot metering and good lighting, I find it hard to tell if the camera is really metering and what you want it to do, that is to have the bird. I think those are really very, very relevant questions, and I will answer that with pleasure. So, let me address that. The first point is a very important one, and that has to do with the autofocus. Autofocus is one of the most difficult things, I promise you, the most difficult things to get right. Even with very good equipment, the autofocus is very much off. I mean, I have the Nikon D4S, that's the top of the top that you can have from Nikon, the most modern autofocusing system, and you're still off. What I do is I autofocus always on the eyes. Okay, that's what I do. Here you can see the eye there. I autofocus on the eye. To focus on a juvenile is extremely difficult because it is so dark. If you watch live focus and you can see how often my camera runs out of focus, you can imagine that a large percentage of my photos are out of focus. With out of focus, even a slight out of focus is highly irritating. I mean, for me it's unacceptable, such an image. So I only look at images that are focused. If you have branches in the way, there is absolutely nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing, I'm sorry. There's no magic for that. Your eye is connected to your brain, and the camera is dumb. That's it, okay? Because the camera is dumb, it has no idea whether you want to photograph the eagle or anything else. So, The best cameras now for sports photography, like the one I have a function called group autofocus, and that means if you have a sporting event like hockey, which of course is very big in North America, if you are focusing on one particular player, the camera, as long as you're following, will maintain the focus on that. That's an enormous advancement. But I do not think that these imaging techniques are really for flock of birds or so. They are really meant for players. I don't quite know the algorithms and how they work, but that's as much as I know. So once again, if you have branches in the way, good luck. Terrible. I have that, by the way, when I take Indy and Jules from another angle in the morning. I have a branch in the way, and I cannot get Ma flying into the nest, which is often very beautiful, or Pa flying directly into the nest sharp. There's no way for me to focus that properly, okay? All you can do is, in that case, you have to observe very carefully and focus on a branch that is at the same time in focus when they're in the nest. So when they come flying into the nest, you focus on that part of the branch, switch off the autofocus immediately. That's what I do then, switch off the autofocus and go and don't touch it anymore. So I am often with my finger toggling between autofocus and on-off, not manual focus, autofocus. So I autofocus on a branch that I think is going to be sharp, and because, as you correctly say, the depth of field is incredibly shallow, which is really difficult. You have to focus on. You have to be very observant when the bird is in the nest. Try and see what else is sharp at that time, and focus on that, and then lock the focus. Okay, really lock it, and then go for the frame. Okay, so you lock the focus, go for the frame, and then continue. So my finger is always toggling between autofocus and locked focus. I do the same when they fly into the nest. I take a chance. I focus on a branch before, if I believe that the autofocus is not going to be fast enough, and then I take a chance, and just as they come in, they're in full focus. Okay, that's really the way to do it. I hope that helps. That's the first point. The second one is a very important one that has to do with the exposure. There's a lot to be said about exposures. Exposures of bald eagles is the most difficult thing to do because spot metering, as you correctly say, does not work. I'm correcting it all the time. Actually, I'm doing it intuitively. I look at the live view image. I take a picture very often, look at it in live view, and then I correct the metering. I do not look at the graphs. I know many photographers do. I don't see that. I find it much easier to take my judgment as an eye. When I have a bald eagle in bright sunlight, I expose down by -1 EV, -1. That's quite a lot. Okay, with the juveniles, do the opposite. I'm at +0.7. Okay, overexpose. You can hardly overexpose. They are so dark. Okay. So that's really the way to do it. It's a lot of experimenting. In the morning, you can leave the exposure time at normal, but even you're right, spot metering is the best way to do it, but spot metering does not get it right, and there's no solution. The only way to do it is, as I say, when you have a bald eagle in bright sunlight, or if the light gets bright, +1. Go to -0.7 or so, rather underexpose. Go in raw, take the pictures raw. And with juveniles, you can, if you have little sunlight, you can overexpose, and other than that, it's no problem during the day. If they do fly with a very bright background, you need to also overexpose. Very difficult, really it is. It's not easy. So anyway, I hope that sort of gave you a very elaborate answer. I hope I didn't waffle too much, and I gave some some consistency to the answer. Let me know. Okay, I've read your answer here, that you agree that histograms are not much help. You wish there was a way to get the camera to give you a histogram of a subset of the frame. That is correct. That is completely correct. Does not exist. There are many functions that do not exist in cameras that I also wish for. I can tell you one thing that I do wish for, and that is stacked focus. For example, if you're very close to a juvenile, at the moment it doesn't happen, the depth of field is incredibly shallow. I have sometimes been 15, 20 feet away. Move the focus point 3-4 steps to the side and focus again, taking the next picture. So you have a stacked image. You have click, clack, like that, and then you'll have you can later stack these 2 images or 3 images in Photoshop. Very easy to do. I've done that once artificially. I was very, very lucky that the bird was quiet enough, but that's something that one could automate. Would be a beautiful solution. Does not exist, okay? Does not exist. I think one could make a fortune if one wrote an algorithm for this. That would be the app to do, you know. That would be the app to crack, in my opinion, for wildlife photography. Okay, let me just put them back in focus. Okay, we have some peace again. Looks like they went back to sleep. I will definitely switch back once I see them again. At the moment it's very peaceful. I really enjoy having questions like that. I love discussions about photography, and also I'm very, very free to share my own experiences with you. Very, very open about it. I do hope that with this whole live chat, I will, if there's enough interest, I can go and actually use the same software on my computer and give some lectures in Photoshop. Very, very nice shortcuts. Photographers make an enormous deal about image processing. It's actually very simple. Really, really simple. You can make, I mean, the key is to have a good image, but I can show you some very, very nice plugins in Photoshop that make life so simple. No need to go to complex courses anymore. I hate to say that for people who are making money of this, but this is really the truth, okay? Really the truth. I have a very, very nice, I've written a recipe for this. I'm very, very happy to share it with others that does it, and you know, with a little bit of your artistic sense, your image is finished in 5 or 10 minutes. Looks really beautiful, and I can do that and share that on my screen and give a few free lectures on that. No problem, and no big deal really. There's nothing great about it. Yes, here's a question in the forum. Oh, sorry, it's being answered already. Okay, so yeah, that's correct. That's a good point. Okay, very, very good point. Yep. Okay, next question. No, I'm not joking. Okay, Daddy's question here is: what happens if you iris? What happens if you iris? What happens if you iris up to get up a better depth of field and then change the ISO to compensate? Right. Good idea. Good idea. Yeah. Okay. I've learned to be polite, never to speak when others are speaking, so let her speak now. Okay, let Bella speak, okay, and then I'll speak. Okay, good point, very good point, Danny. That's exactly the way I actually work. I try I try to talk. if possible. Possible. Yes. Okay, that's exactly right. Of course, the depth of field is related to the iris size. So what you do is the F really means the relationship of yeah. You come here. And you show yourself. You come here now. That's a lot of noise for nothing. Come here, come here. Show your face, okay? So everybody can see you. Come here. Oh, what big doggy you are. And a noisy puppy, eh? And a noisy puppy you are. Yeah, you're much more important than everybody else. I know. You're right. So you can see. Okay. Okay, let's try. No. There are ghosts here. I see nothing. There must be ghosts around. Yeah, Bella, it's okay. You're very important. I know you're very important. Yes, you are. You're very important. Yeah, I know you're very important. Yes, you are. Yeah, you are. You're super important. Yes. Oh, now look. I'm going to switch over there so they can look at the eagle camera. Now, see. There. Okay. Okay, Danny, I'm going to try and answer the question as soon as I get a possibility to do that, right? Okay. So let me just quickly address this. Hopefully the eagles will come back now, the eaglets. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's how I work. Get the depth of field. For my lens, for example, I don't go higher than f11. Okay, so 11. That's the focal length to the. It's f over d. Oh, yeah, it's okay. Okay. It's the diameter of. Oh, come on! I'm sorry. I can't think at the moment. The dog is getting at it. But let me get back to the Danny. We'll have this discussion, okay? Sorry, but I'm gonna concentrate on the eaglets. But you're absolutely right. Let me just say that there's a compromise. Pump up the ISO. That's why you need a very good chip. I can go up to 1600 ISO very easily. That's exactly what I do. It's a good point. Okay, let's see what we can do. Okay, now that's really beautiful. I'm going to take another few images. So just excuse me for a second. I'm just going to switch you back to the camera here so I can give you guys a few more portraits, okay? Oh, you're gonna love this. I really got some really funny images. One of them is, I think it's Indy standing there, and Jules sort of going with a wing right into his face and going like this. So don't forget to send me an email. I got my email there, and you'll get those images. Okay. So I'm going to take a few more, right? And I think you're going to enjoy them. As you can see, really exciting. It's so funny to watch these two because there's so much bickering going on. They seem to be both very, very sure of themselves. With Echo and Foxy 2 years ago was very different. Echo was clearly the dominant, probably a female, and Foxy a male. It was very clear who had first place here, but with these two I cannot be sure. Very interesting to see how they develop. There's a question from the forum whether I color balance with white. The answer is I don't. I do not use any color balance. I know that some use it. By the way, it's not a problem if you mess up color balance in your photo. You can balance it later. Okay, not a problem nowadays. It's of course better if you do it in RAW correctly, but in general, I don't color balance. I just leave it on the daylight settings. I found that the D4S has excellent, does very, very good things for white balance. It's more important for portraits. If you do portraits, your white balance, if it's off, you have to do some balancing later. So yes, I just use the auto settings. That's the answer. I don't use any temperature, any black body, or the correct term from the optics point of view is the black body temperature. Actually, I don't do that. Oh, they're asleep now. So we can go on with our discussion. Yeah, let me just go back just to explain what the F number really means in the camera, okay? So let's assume you have a lens here, okay? And the lens has a certain focal length, okay? The focal length is defined as there where your lens starts, okay? The point where your lens starts to the place where your chip is, okay? You have some optics and so on. That's called the focal length of the lens. And then the other part that you have is the opening, okay? Now, if you say I'm running at open aperture, it means that you're allowing for the complete light to come into the front diameter of your lens. And what happens then, as Danny already said, is you can adjust the iris of the lens. So the smaller you make it, the more depth of field you get. The reason for that is very simple, because if you look at the so-called pinhole camera, the pinhole camera was the earliest type of camera that existed, was taking a piece of paper and just putting with a pin, just make a small hole in it. And it is actually infinitely sharp, which means you get a one-to-one correspondence between the object and the image, because all the light has to travel through one point only, and one point only. So it matches completely, no matter whether it comes from near or from far. So the depth of field theoretically is infinity. Okay, so the F for that is infinite. Okay, from a theoretical point of view. Now, so you start open. The only disadvantage, unfortunately, is not much light comes through. Okay, and that's a disadvantage. If we had an infinitely good, fast chip that was so super light sensitive, we would have infinitely sharp images. Okay, you would have the mountains in the background sharp. You would have me sharp and everything. Now you're probably wondering, why does the webcam have that depth of field? Well, that's another question. Of course, the webcam is taking quite a long exposure, okay? And because the perception that we have in video, the eye is very forgiving when it comes to movement, okay? When I'm moving here, you'll see some type of what we call rolling, okay? It's like my hands are curved in a way. That's the only irritating thing about videos. But because I'm exposing at about 1/60th of a second, you don't notice that very much. But with images, it's very different. It has to be extremely sharp. We have a very, very different way of looking at images, and that means that it's very critical that we focus correctly. And if you take 1/60th of an image of a second of me, for example, sitting there, and I'm moving a little bit, it's going to be blurred. Okay, and that's why we don't have that liberty. We have to the longer the lens, the greater the magnification, the faster you have to take it, and that's why we need big lenses. And there's no way around it. That's physics, okay? So, having said that, coming back to the explanation, what the F over D is. Oh, that's a fly now on the that was a fly that was sitting on the webcam. Coming back to that. The smaller you make the iris, okay, the sharper your image is going to be, and that's the F over D ratio. That I said your focal length is always constant, but your iris, the diameter changes, okay, and that's your variable that you have. That's the setting that you can do. So it gets sharper and sharper, of course. Now there are two problems with that. The one is the loss of light, okay? That means you have to go up with the ISO. The ISO is the sensitivity of your chip, and good chips can go up easily to 2000 now without a lot of noise. So that's one amazing advantage that you have. But there's another problem, and that's called diffraction, okay? And diffraction is a very, very irritating effect with lenses. Diffraction is basically the bending of light. It really is. It's an effect. It's an interference of light with the with the iris itself. You call it diffraction. So if you make it smaller and smaller, light actually becomes it sort of bends around. It interferes with itself and gives diffraction patterns. And these diffraction patterns cause it to be unsharp. So what I'm saying is there's actually an optimal focal length an optimum iris size that you have that you do not want to go smaller than, otherwise you get diffraction effects. Okay, so these are the things you need to look at. But usually a large lens like I have with that's an f5.6, which is fantastic for an 800mm lens. I don't usually run with complete open aperture because it's I'm just a perfectionist. I'll try not to do that. I will try and go one aperture beyond that, trying to go to F7, F8. Okay, and of course, as the evening comes in, you need more light and so on, and at one point your ISO, I always let the ISO go automatically till a certain point, and then I cut it off, and then it gets darker, because otherwise the image gets too noisy. So that's really the way I work. I don't know if that helps. Maybe I explained that very poorly, but I hope it sort of clarifies the issue. I do have a PhD in optics. Yeah, it's an interesting story. I did that for fun, by the way. I didn't do the PhD because it means anything to me to be a doctor. It really doesn't. Okay, I forget. I just did it for fun. When I started working, I was working in a research place, and they had these. I was actually working with solar energy, which was amazing. So. I'll just keep on talking whilst there's no bird up there. I can entertain you up a bit, because it's quite a nice story. That's how I started. I started my first job there after I did a master's in physics, and then I started at a research lab. It was really interesting there. Germany is very well funded, by the way, for research. The fantastic public funding. I really like that. Very, very good education system. And had a wonderful position, was doing what you call solar thermal energy, and I was very adventurous. I wanted to go out to Saudi Arabia, really, to experience and do something sensible, really, with the reserves we have. And I was very interested in solar energy, and that was way back in 1986. And in 1986, of course, photovoltaics, as you have it now, the solar cells were very, very, very expensive, very, very different technology, and they were using a lot what you call solar thermal energy. Solar thermal energy, as the word says, is a conversion of solar and the radiation to heat. Okay, actually can be very, very efficient. And in the United States, by the way, they have an incredible site in the middle of the desert at Barstow, in the Californian desert. And what they do is they have many mirrors. They focus the light onto one spot and heat it easy to 1,000 degrees and try and convert that to heat. It's a very efficient way of converting solar energy. There's a lot of funding going in that direction, which is very positive to see. There's a remark now about solar thermal is a very good way of cooking bugs. Well, I can tell you, I've seen. Don't want to hear this, but I've seen doves fly through some birds fly through those rays. Oh my goodness. Okay, no more comment on that. They fry. They fry. So, fortunately, not many. It's not like wind energy. It's not so controversial. Okay, but yes, it does happen. And it can be very dangerous. Let's be very careful with that. Okay, coming back to the subject now. So I wanted to go to Saudi Arabia anyway. They had parabolic dishes, and they were running a so-called Stirling engine. The Stirling engine is a wonderful heat engine. I won't explain how that works, but anyway, it's a very nice heat engine, and they wanted to produce electricity in Saudi Arabia with that. Well, as it happened, then nothing came of the project, unfortunately, and so I looked for other work, and I found another group there, and they were working on some other solar thermal group, and they didn't understand very much of the optical properties of what they were doing, and that's how I came into my idea. And well, believe it or not, now comes a really crazy story. They were using some what you call a fluidized bed. A fluidized bed is a mixture of particles where you put some air through, so you have forced convection, and that gives you very good heat transfer. It's typically used in a fluidized bed is very much used in the industry for heating processes, for chemical reactions, and so on, called fluidized beds. Anyway, they had a fluidized bed, and they were putting solar energy into that from all these mirrors. Okay, very nice experiment. But there was very little known about the heat and the optical properties, and so I actually built a levitator, a device. I won't explain how it works, but it's actually very simple. It's an electrodynamic field where you can suspend a single particle in, okay? A single particle in air, very, very nice, okay? So I showed a laser on that and did some optical measurements on that, and I built a special meter for that, and I had a wonderful time actually, and for about 4 or 5 years, I went to my professor and I said, you know, the nice thing in Germany, they were very lackadaisical about the way you do it, not very, very school-like and so on. You were very, very open in the way you could do things. And I never saw my professor. I saw him in the beginning when I started this, and I did it more or less my own and wrote some papers and so on. And there was really no hurry to finish things. I also got paid for it, which was of course great, but a lot of PhD people get paid. So I finished one day and I brought the thesis to him and said, here it is. No, I didn't actually. He asked me, well, Christian, what are the two main things that you've done that are revolutionary, or not revolutionary, but something that's new, right? So I told him this and this, and he said, well, that's impossible, that you can't do that. And I said, well, I explained how I did it, and he said, wow, okay, write it down. So I wrote my whole thesis down in 4 weeks, not very thick, about 60 pages or so. Went to the exam, went very well, and that was my thesis. I was so sad when it was finished. No, I had to go out and I was just married at that time, and so I had to actually then look for a job and go to the industry, and actually it was a lot of fun. That's another story, but anyway, that's how I got into optics. So I learned a lot about optics. I had my own lab, and we were well funded. Really, it was a good, very, very good time. Yeah, so it was fun. Yeah, and in the meantime, of course, lasers, as I can just see here in the forum, the word laser being mentioned, lasers have evolved along a lot. I mean, we're using huge lasers. I mean, nowadays you can get these lasers, it's horrifying. You can buy them on internet. I don't even know how it's possible. You find these diode lasers, these small diode lasers, you can fry things with. They're hugely dangerous. They're really dangerous. That has evolved. It didn't exist at that time. Yeah, we were using is correct. We were using a helium neon laser and a so-called argon ion laser. Helium neon laser is for the red, and argon ion laser is for the green, and it could be tuned. That's the type of laser I was using. But nowadays they have diode lasers, very, very small ones that are really dangerous. You can take a look on YouTube what people do with it. I cannot believe this. And some crazy people shine them at airplanes, which is really dangerous to do. So shouldn't do that, of course. Yeah, so that's where we are now, and on I went anyway. Rest is an interesting story. I got lots of interesting stories to tell, but I'll leave that for another time. I don't want to bore you. Anyway, there's still nothing going on in the nest. So yeah, sorry. I wish there were more going on that I could show you. Take a look, it's very quiet up there. You know what really surprises me? There's no Ma or Pa tonight. I can see in the forum there's something about the aurora. Now let me tell you a story about the aurora. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I lived in Sweden for some time, and you probably know, if you go very far north or very far south, you see what we call the aurora, in German you call Polarlicht, which is polar light. One of the most beautiful things you can ever see. And you have to be fairly north. Now what's interesting in Europe is, if you live in Sweden, Norway or Finland, you are 60 degrees north. If you go 60 degrees north in Canada, oh my goodness, you land in the middle of nowhere. But because of the Gulf Stream, it's possible in Europe to live fairly north. For example, Stockholm is plus 60 degrees, okay? That's amazingly far. We here in Vancouver are 49 degrees latitude. You're 60 degrees latitude there. My goodness, would you have to go far north here, and very, very cold to go there. But because of the Gulf Stream, cities like Stockholm or Helsinki are very, very blessed, and I spent quite some time there. That's actually where I got interested in. It was in the year 2000. I got interested in astronomy when I lived in Sweden, and started there with a small telescope. But I remember on one day, I remember exactly, it was the 6th of April 2000. I remember the day very well because I have two boys, and that's when they were born, the 6th of April. And I went out in the evening, and I was in the garden. And usually what I would do before I start that story was amazing. You could go out on these ice lakes in Sweden. It's really ice in winter. You could go out on a lake. I would take my telescope out and put it in the middle of an ice lake, okay? And you would have these beautiful greenish, bluish colors from the aurora. Amazing, amazing. And then they would disappear, and then the sky would be pitch black, really pitch black, and you would see the Milky Way in the most beautiful, the most beautiful colors. Really, really amazing. So anyway, coming back to the story of the 6th of April 2000, that was an unusual day. There were some major solar flares, and the solar flares are responsible for the aurora. And they were so intense that the light, I remember I was adjusting my telescope and looking up in the sky and thinking, what are these funny colors and why is it so light? And the whole sky wasn't only green and so on, it was purple and was beautiful colors I've ever seen. And the whole sky was covered in these colors. And on that day, if you look in the, if you actually Google the 6th of April 2000, you will see that they were seen all the way in the States and so on, quite far south. That's how intense the solar flare was at that time. I do have a problem too at the moment, by the way. I cannot see whether I'm still live. Can anyone tell me if I'm still live? I hope I'm not holding a monologue here, or the dog and I are holding a dialogue. I'm not sure if we're still live. Oh yes, I'm live. Thank you very much, Danny. Okay, good to know. I've lost contact here with my own web browser, but that's okay. Still nothing at the nest, as you can see. Now Bella is very, very vocal today, as you can hear. Extremely vocal. I don't know why, but there seem to be so many ghosts that I cannot see. Or she's trying to tell you something. I just see a very funny comment in the. I bark at all the voices in my head, at the voices in my head. Yes, that's very funny. I think there's actually a rap song that goes somewhere that has to do with the voices in my head. It's quite funny actually. It's very similar. Okay, let's have a look to see if I can adjust the font. I'm not sure. I have styles. Let me see what this does. I'm not sure if... No, this is no good. This is terrible. That's no good either. Let me see if I can choose a better font. Let's see what we can do here. Yes, I think like this is probably best at the moment. I don't have many choices of font, unfortunately. I can only choose bold, italic, strike through. I don't know why you want to do strike through. I mean, that's really crazy. I don't see the point of that. They could have thought of what they could have offered a bit more: bold, italic, underline, or strike through. I mean, strike through is the last thing that you need to do when you're broadcasting. It's maybe something you use in Word for editing. It's rather ridiculous. It would be good to have a drop shadow. That's correct. I think that was just one of the remarks from the forum. I think it would be nice, but I don't have that, unfortunately. It's limited. Yeah, well, of course you can prepare these things in Photoshop and go back, but and then overlay it accordingly. But for live text, this is the best I can do. It would be good if we had some background, wouldn't it? But it doesn't seem to offer that. It offers only font, and that's it. It's called overlay. We wouldn't even overlay of an overlay over an overlay. What you can do in Adobe Premiere, by the way, you can have different overlays, and then you can do that. You can create a shadow. Much better. Yeah, this is I think VidBlaster is not bad all in all. It's an expensive piece of software, but it's very stable, I must say. Wirecast, of course, the snobs of VidBlaster think it's like preaching to the converted. I don't like reading these forums because they all praise themselves. I'm sure Wirecast. I'm much more open to other solutions. I'm sure Wirecast has some advantages too that VidBlaster doesn't have. I haven't really seen a proper comparison of those two. I have nothing against trying several different options. I'm just going to use VidBlaster until I get the whole system very stable. Come up with a better solution, more portable solution, and then I'm going to start experimenting with different software too. So Danny thinks there are some YouTube comparisons. I'd like to, please send me the link via Facebook if you would be so kind. Not in the forum, or well, you can share them with the forum too, please. But please be so kind, just send me the link. I'd be very interested to see that. I'm always very open to new things. The thing, although what I find at the moment is very important to close the project. Otherwise, I would never sit here and do the broadcast. Okay, I have to say, okay, even though the system is not perfect, it's working. And the most important is that I can share the eagles with you. Oh yes, I'm just selling my encoder video, the greatest thing you've ever seen. Okay, I'm going to sell it. I've used it on Eagle, so it's very special price. No, I'm only joking. No, I'm not going to sell it. I don't recommend it to anyone. It's the encoder that I've been using was very unstable. I really think the best solution is the one I'm going to have in future. Take a laptop. If you have HDMI, take these dongles and run it off a laptop. You'll be very happy and very flexible, and you can do many things at the same time. I think that's the way to go. To buy a piece of hardware, there is, by the way, Teradek Cube is a very expensive solution. Was offered to me $7,000. Can you believe it? 3.5 for the cube and another. Then you need some extras, and you're running somewhere between 7.5 and 10. My goodness, I've never even tried the system. It's just get ready and buy the system. Gee, that's insane. But that's what they're asking for. The Teradek video was a good experience for me, but never again. I can tell you, I won't use such a system ever again. It's not reliable. Next time I'll bring the encoder with me. I'll show it to you, and we'll play frisbee with it. Oh, it's so quiet now. My goodness. Nothing there. I'm just enjoying the evening. I had my cappuccino, you know, very nice. Finished now, but you certainly need it. It makes you happy. Lovely sunlight here. I wish I could. I wish they would do something so I could take some beautiful images. Be a little bit more going on here. I got, you know, if you look behind me, turn the screen a little bit. Well, you see there, you can see again part of the place where Echo and Foxy were. But anyway, as I go around, you can see a little bit of the beautiful landscape. That's the veranda there. So that's as much as I can show you anyway. So you can see the beautiful view out to the bay. A lovely, lovely evening here. Incredible. Best light for photography. Fantastic, fantastic. I wish there were only a few eagles now. Oh. I don't know if you can see the moon up there. Let's see if the thing focuses on the moon. Let's see. Yeah, you can. Huh? Can you see the moon? Oops. I hate these autofocus things. There you go. Can you actually see the, it's trying to focus, it can't. Can't focus properly. I have to use the manual focus. Every time I go up there. There we go. There's the moon for you. Lovely, isn't it? That's the best for photography. You know what? I have an idea. I'm going to go and point at the moon. You want to see a few craters? It's not the best time to look at craters, but would you like to see a few craters? Why not? Show you something exciting. Let me just, you know, I'll see what the response in the forum is. If you would like me to point at the moon and show you what my lens can do, I'd love to do that. Not sure if I'm frozen again, if I'm still there. I cannot see anything anymore. My computer's down here. Oh dear, oh dear. But I still seem to be broadcasting. I think so. Not sure what's going on. But I apologize. It looks like my one computer is not responding at all anymore. So I cannot even see your messages anymore. I can't see anything. Flash has crashed. How wonderful. Well, that's just great. Oh. Let me just reload. I apologize. Let me just get the chat room back on so I can see whether there's still someone there or whether I'm all alone here. My computer is completely given up. The keyboard's given up. Everything's given up. It's funny, isn't it? So I'm doing everything by hand at the moment. I have to look at it at home and see what's going on. Let me just see if I can see the chat messages. Yeah. Yeah, I've lost complete contact. Oh dear. That's incredible. Let's see. If anybody wants to just give me a call, I'm not gonna say if I'm still there or not. It's really stupid, isn't it? But I'm going to assume that I'm still live because let me just see if I can get the form up on this laptop. One second. So that I know whether I'm still live, but I'm fairly certain I'm still live. Live cameras. Okay, I've put it up on this computer now. I apologize. Nothing going on at the Nest still. I'm gonna try and get the Eagle chat room open on this computer too. Okay, I can see the chat group. Yes, I'm still live. Thank you very much. Okay, very good. I've got you. I can see that that I'm back, and I think I'm still live. Should be fine. I can't put the. I think everything's fine. Very good. Okay. Anyway, my question was about the moon. Would you like to see the moon? Because I can do that. Okay, we'll show you the moon. Why not? Well, that's exciting. Okay, let's go. Focus on infinity first. And lock the focus, otherwise I cannot find the moon. Very difficult to do this in live view. Again. Hang on, I'm just trying to focus on the clouds. In live view it's not easy, it's much easier to look through. Okay, let me lock the focus. Autofocus. If I can't do it like this, I'll have to jump out of live view because I need to find the moon. It's very difficult to do this. Ah, there we go, there we go, there you go. Once we know where the moon is, it's very easy. I'm going to go and show you very much. Okay, what do you think? How's that for the moon? That's not bad, huh? That's a live view of the moon as you're flying above. You're just floating above the moon. Yeah, it's amazing detail. It's really as if you're flying above. That's the rotation of the Earth, okay, that you are enjoying there. So let's play a bit more. And it's not even dark, you know, there's not even sunset yet. It's 9 o'clock and we have another maybe 15-20 minutes. Yep, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm purposely underexposing quite heavily here. But I'm sure you don't often see the moon like this. I'm going to give you a bit more view because there's really nothing. I promise I'll go straight back to the nest as soon as I see something. Okay, we're going to fly over a crater now as it comes in. That's more the lower part. That's amazing detail. That's certainly a Swiss cheat. You know that the Earth looks very similar. If you take the water away, it looks very similar. People didn't believe it. There's no reason why the Earth should look any different to the Moon. One has now realized through all the satellite imagery that the Earth is very similar. Okay, we're just going to let the moon fly by. Will be the last time. In more glorious size and detail. I switched off Sasse photo now, so if you want to take some screenshots you can. Oh, the light is now so magnificent, and yet no sign of any eagle. Really strange tonight, really strange. I wish they would come out again, but I'll have to pack up soon because, you know, probably with the view of the moon, that'll be it for today. It's just the way it is. Yeah, some interesting discussions going on here about the moon, about the brightness of the moon, or if you think you've been around shortly after the moon, the moon was formed, it was about 20 times closer to the Earth. That is correct, yes. It would have filled too much of the sky. It would have been like an incredible bulb. Well, the same goes for, you know, some of the interesting galaxies that are up there. If you've heard of the Orion Nebula, that's distance to us is about 1,000 light years. That's where the beautiful Horsehead Nebula is. Well, there's a beautiful nebula in the southern sky called the Tarantula Nebula. It's amazing. If that was as close as the Orion, it would be filling a huge portion of the sky, and the night sky would be incredibly bright. So there's some amazing comparisons one can have, like the moon and a certain nebula and many other things. It's quite good to see. Anyway, I'm slowly going to pack up. I have got nice photos, so for those of you who would like to send them to me, send me your email, I mean, and to share them again. I'm very happy. I will go home and work a bit on that. I'm going to pack up now because it's getting a bit cold, and light's extremely beautiful, but no eagles. Down on the note of the moon just floating by in space here, I'll say good night on that note, and I'll slowly pack up now and leave the camera on for a while until I'll need to take that. So I'll try and disassemble everything around first, okay, so you can enjoy it for a bit more. Okay, thank you too. Thank you everyone. Thank you in the you know, for the active participation in the forum, outside the forum. Thank you for taking part. Thank you for all the viewers. Thank you for enjoying the time. I enjoy my time with you, and certainly we'll be back tomorrow for sure, because tomorrow's Friday, and the weekend's coming up. I was going to go to Port Hardy once again, but weather forecast is not good. On that note, good night to everyone, and yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Okay.